Good evening, and welcome to Focusing on You, an educational program sponsored by Hope Abounds. I'm your host, Lisa Cawthorne. I'm a volunteer with Hope Abounds. I'm also an oncology nurse and a breast cancer survivor of 18 years. This evening, we're going to focus on exercise, so it's very exciting because it really will be focusing on you and what you can do to feel better. Some of the benefits of exercise are to regain strength, improve stamina, help your mood, reduce pain, and reduce your fatigue. More and more research has come out talking about before, during, and after treatment for cancer rehabilitation is the code word that they use now. So first, I'm going to introduce our guest, who is Lori Manship. She leads the Fluid Recovery Program at the YWCA here in Wilmington, North Carolina. I'm going to talk to her about her program a little more, but first we're going to view a video, which is Get Up and Get Moving. This is a video that was produced by the Oncology Nursing Society. It's going to discuss the benefits and the next steps that you should do to exercise or to get up, get moving. You can find more information on the website if you search ons.org and Get Up, Get Moving. There's some great resources listed on that page for professionals, but there's also several resources which would be beneficial for patients. So now we're going to view the video, and then afterwards we will be talking to Lori.
Before my diagnosis, I wasn't very active. I knew I should be getting more exercise, but never got motivated to do it. I guess I figured I had all the time in the world. Nothing like getting cancer to change your mind about the important stuff. When my doctor told me it was colon cancer, I was obviously scared. More than the thought of going through treatment, I didn't know how it would affect the rest of my life. How would I feel? Would I have to start working? Am I going to be around to see my grandkids grow up? There was a lot of stress. I heard so many different things from friends and family. Chemo was going to make me sick. I was going to be exhausted all the time. I should try and rest as much as possible. A friend of mine told me that when her mom had cancer treatment, she felt awful no matter what she did. It was all so confusing. During one of my first visits to the cancer center, my oncology nurse, Vicky, told me that I should try and stay as active as I could during chemo. There's been a lot of research lately that shows physical activity can benefit people with cancer.
Robert and I talked about the physical and psychological benefits of staying active throughout and even after his treatment. The old advice was to rest as much as possible, but a growing number of studies tells us that becoming and staying active help prevent or decrease common symptoms. From a physical perspective, one of the main side effects of treatment is fatigue. And even though it sounds contrary, studies are showing that physical activity can help you feel less tired. Also, a patient going through treatment can sometimes lose muscle mass. Doing simple weight-bearing exercises can help strengthen and build muscle. Psychologically, there is evidence that shows physical activity can positively affect mood, as well as help patients deal with anxiety, depression, and sleep quality. What I tell all my patients is something is better than nothing. Activities like walking, or any exercise that keeps the heart rate and breathing up, resistance training, flexibility. It may even be something as simple as walking around their living room. The important thing is to find out how much they can do, don't overdo it, but just stay as active as possible.
Vicky has been amazing throughout my treatment. She answers all my questions, she makes me laugh, and she's given me some great advice, like when to consult my doctor, if I have new symptoms or my symptoms get worse, or if I have chest pain, swelling in my arms or legs, or other pain. Knowing this has really helped because I was a little worried I might hurt myself. At first, I could only walk to the corner of our block before having to take a break. Now I can walk for a half hour at least 3 times a week. And I've added some light weight training when I feel up to it. It clears my head, gives me something else to focus on, and I use physical activity to deal with stress. Now I'm not as tired, I'm even sleeping better. My journey is far from over, but I'm taking it one step at a time, literally. If you're dealing with cancer, talk with your nurse or physician. Find out what level of activity is going to be best for you. But take it from me, just get up and get moving. You'll be happy you did.
Hi, and we're back. I hope you enjoyed the video. It gave you a little inspiration. For further inspiration, we're going to talk to Lori, and she's going to tell us about her program called Fluid Recovery at the YWCA here in Wilmington, North Carolina. Have to give you a plug there for that. So can you tell us about the program that you lead there?
Yes. Hey, Lisa. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here today. The program that you're talking about is Fluid Recovery, and that program is a free program for breast cancer survivors, and it's 5 days a week. And in that program, we offer land and water Pilates-based exercise.
So for people that really don't know what Pilates is, could you tell us a little more
Sure.
about that? Because sometimes I get confused. I think,
Absolutely.
Is that yoga or is it,
Right.
what is it exactly?
Pilates is a mind-body method of exercise where you're connecting with your body, thinking about how you're moving in space, breathing, and using those techniques of flexibility, strength, and range of motion. And a lot of times we hear, oh, it's a core workout. Well, absolutely. But to move your limbs, your arms and your legs, you need the strength of your tree trunk, your core, to move those limbs in the right manner.
So how did you become involved with this program? What kind of credentials do you have to do that?
With the program, I was teaching a lot of other exercise programs that I was, certified to teach. And Pilates is my love, so I have a training in Pilates, and that's something that I've really honed in on. And then I got some additional help with my training specific for breast cancer survivors. So it was Pilates-based as well. Works very, very well. And I brought that into the water as well. So with Pilates, you're basically, you're moving from the strength of your core to exercise. We use a lot of different types of things to do that.
So you brought sort of a show and tell for the audience
Yes.
today. And so could you tell us about
Absolutely.
what you brought? I was
Sure.
surprised by some of it.
Well, this is an interesting piece called the Magic Ring or Magic Circle. It is magic. No. It actually came from back in the 20s. Joseph Pilates, who created the method of work, took a beer keg ring, which is a metal piece, and he fashioned that into using it to strengthen the body in different ways. There's a lot of ways you can use the ring. With legs, with arms, with your whole body. So it's a tool that we use in Pilates. This one is actually fiberglass, so you'll see some that are metal and some that even have padding inside. But this is one of the tools that we use, and we can lift our arms up and we can move around and use our rib cage, and it's just a great tool. We also use TheraBands. Which also bring in nice, flexibility, range of motion, and strength. And we use them in all different sorts of ways to get that range of motion in the body and the strength. We use weights, and you'll see some breast cancer survivors will wear gloves or fitted sleeves for lymphedema. So we specifically work with your needs. I'm trained to know what things to do and what not to do, how to bear weight on your limbs with the strength of your core or not to do so, to wear your sleeve when you need to wear your sleeve, a lot of things like that that help people that are safe in their movement. Our class is designed specifically to do that.
And I noticed those are very small weights.
They are small weights.
So is that a 1 pound weight?
This is a 1 pound weight, and believe it or not, it's a very big challenge because in Pilates, unlike a lot of other weights methods in workouts, we work out from the body with our core strength. So working away from the body is very different than working close into the body. So we're actually, that 1 pound weight gets a lot heavier out away from your body. So we're careful to do the right amount of repetitions for ourselves. We're careful to not overdo that and to build with or without weights, to use our arms in those movements or our legs in those movements, and then we build and build and build. And sometimes we go above 1 pound. It depends on where we are with that particular individual.
Okay. And this is something I was fascinated with.
These are for the water. So we bring our Pilates into the water and we use our water gloves. These are webbed and they're a great design for our group because with lymphedema, you want to keep that at bay. You want to be sure that you're doing the right thing when it comes to lymphedema, if you already have it or if you're prone to have it. So this glove is designed, it's a closed glove. There's no opening for water to flow through, but it's a very stretchy glove so that it doesn't bind and cut off any circulation or anything like that. Now the webbed hand here, as you push through the water, you're going to feel a whole lot more resistance in that.
If it went through your fingers.
Than if it went through your fingers. And even with the fingers, we get a lot of resistance. So this is something to add for those who feel like they want to go into another level of work. So.
Okay. And one more thing, it looks like a big weight belt.
This is actually a flotation belt. It's a great design HydroFit makes, and it fits snugly around the waist. When you go into the deep end, we have 8.5 to 5.5 feet that we stay up out of the water. We don't go under really with our heads in our class very often unless we want to. So this keeps us afloat, and it frees up our arms and our legs to move. And say if you wanted to do a cross-country ski in the water, you're right up and you without being under the water, you can float in buoyancy and you can move your limbs from your core work. And it's just a great tool to use.
So that keeps you upright.
Keeps you up. Yes.
And so that you can move. So you've touched on a little bit, maybe some women who have lymphedema, some women you're looking at maybe prevention of lymphedema.
Right. Correct.
So what are the criteria for being able to be a part of your class? What things does someone need to do before coming to your class?
Great question. On the YWCA website, we have a page for fluid recovery, and it will tell you what our class is and what times our classes are. There's a packet there too, and you can access the packet online or come by the YWCA and get a packet to fill out. It's a very simple questionnaire. One of the pages is to have a release from your doctor to go into the program.
Okay.
And so once you get that filled out, then you contact myself or the YWCA, and we can assist you by enrolling you into those classes and helping you to know what time they are and which classes might fit for you.
And so is this designed for breast cancer survivors who have completed their treatment? What phase are we looking at?
That's another great question. Originally, we were looking at it being through with all of your treatments because we were getting into the water. And with treatments, you could have a skin rash with the chlorine or whatever. So we decided that at that point you would need to be through your treatments. However, because we have the land now as well, the Pilates classes on a mat or in a chair, in a studio setting at the Y, that you don't have to worry about the chlorine. So you can come in and you can partake even if you're not completely out of your treatments.
Okay, great.
So that's a great thing as
So
well.
it's called a fluid recovery program. That's where you started. So explain sort of what happened.
Well,
it started different
It actually
phases?
started back in 2011 when I approached someone in my church that I knew had breast cancer, and she started working along with me in Pilates on a mat in a studio, and then we took that and we put it into the water. And at that point, around 2013 was when Cape Fear Memorial Foundation supplied us, YWCA, and me partnering with them to teach and create the program there. We had free classes to offer 5 days a week, and some were in water and some were in land, but a lot were in the water.
Okay.
We've done some transitioning, and we are working even more on land as well as water. So we're starting to see some great benefits from that, and the combination of the two are really wonderful.
So you mentioned the benefits of that. Could you talk about that a little bit, whether
Sure.
it's physical, emotional, what sorts of
Right.
comments and what have you seen among the ladies you're working with?
Well, it's really kind of neat that the ladies will, they have journals, and they will just write some things in their journals about their experience in the class and how they're doing outside of class, and how these classes and this exercise is specifically touching their lives. And some of the things that I hear and see in their journals are just beautiful. Coming into a group of women who are bonding in this particular area and knowing that they're working together and strengthening themselves, there's a great camaraderie and friendship that we have seen. And they also talk among themselves and share great things that they learn from each other about. And that's been really neat. The other thing emotionally is that some, were a little depressed even when they came in, and not sure how to exercise or what to do about that. Just knowing they were supposed to go exercise, but where do I start and what do I do?
Right.
So the wonderful thing about it is it's specific for them, and they felt safe, and they felt like they could trust what we were doing there, and they were seeing that they could trust it because it was working for them, and it was working physically, spiritually, and emotionally for them. One of the physical things I hear a lot is sleeping better. And that's a big one for a lot of people going through cancer and treatments, is the side effects of medications and side effects of just the sleeplessness, and even neuropathy in the feet and hands, and pain in the body in certain bones and areas of the body, and seeing them free of that. And dealing with it so much better and having a better quality of life has been so inspirational for me and them as well. So that's some of the things. And the doctors, when they go to their doctor's visits, like today, one of my clients came into class and she said, "I just want you to know what my doctor said." And I get to hear these things a lot. And she said, "My doctor said, whatever you're doing, keep doing it." And she's one that comes 5 days a week. And she has really, so many of them have been so dedicated. And one of the things I hear them say is, this to me is just as important as a doctor's appointment or any other appointment I might make for myself. I write it in my calendar or I put it in my phone, and it is there, and I'm not missing it, because this for me is a matter of life and death sometimes for people. This is so important to my life. And once they get a taste of how it feels and how life can be with that, it only encourages them to keep coming. So it's just amazing to see their dedication and their work and the benefits in their lives from it.
Wow. So it sounds like you're talking about physical strength, but then also emotional strength and the bonding that these ladies have, which is probably a side benefit you didn't really think about. You were probably thinking about the physical benefits of it.
Yes. And then the burden of going through so much with financial things for people when they're going through cancer can be so difficult. Why would I add an extra cost to my life at this point that, or add something stressful to my life, not knowing how to go about this, where our program is free.
Right.
And it takes that burden off. So that is also another psychological or emotional thing that happens. And the hope that you see after they come and see, hey, I have this path to go down now. All of a sudden, just the whole countenance changes. The smiles are there. And even some of my clients are people who have to be caregivers themselves, even going through what they're going through. So they have things that they're dealing with their own families to take care of them. So for them to have this moment each week for themselves is such... It makes me smile, because I can look right out and see them, just beaming and going, this is my time and this is valuable for me. Going away refreshed, going away strengthened and empowered and encouraged is what I see every day. So
that is just incredible. And so through this grant, offered in the local community,
Cape Fear Memorial Foundation.
The YWCA offers this for free for a year. Is that right? A whole year.
They get a free year's membership when they sign up for this. They get 5 days a week of free classes. They come to the ones that they can. And this can go for a year. And I have even had clients that I have still now that have been with me from the beginning of time. As long as I have room to put someone, I'm going to try to keep people as long as I can keep them, and I continue even then, and they continue to see the benefits of it.
Beautiful. Have you heard of any other programs such as yours, or how did you come up with this idea? I know you said you worked with a church member doing Pilates, but then how did you figure out to move into the water and the webbed gloves, which I'm so fascinated with? How did you figure out sort of the next steps for that?
After my classes that I was teaching, the regular types of classes of Pilates and water, I would have women come after class to me and say, I'm not going to see you for a while in class. And I would say, why? And they would say, well, I've got breast cancer and I've got to go off and deal with that. And it just happened so often, I found. And so what I felt was this passion inside of me saying, I'm supposed to do something. This is part of my life. This is part of what I was called to do. So I found ways to find training in that. And I would, look at everything I could to figure out. And this is nothing new. Joseph Pilates took a very famous breast cancer survivor, which was a dancer back in the 1920s, Eva Gentry, and he rehabbed her and exercised her through Pilates and got her full range of motion back.
Wow.
And she had a radical mastectomy back then.
Because that's all they did then.
And he sent the black and white videos of her doing this work in Pilates to the physicians, and they did not believe him. So they actually took her top off, which showed she had nothing.
Right.
And showed her exercising and doing this work. And that started a whole openness of, wow, this is working. Let's do this. So this is not brand new. Joseph paved the way for me to do this, and my trainers have helped me tremendously, support me in it. And I'm just very thankful for the training that I have gotten, that I share with these women.
That's a remarkable story. I didn't know that about Joseph Pilates. And one thing I wanted to address a little bit, we touched on about lymphedema years ago, and it sounds like this is, since the 1920s. I mean, a woman had surgery, and maybe they said, don't do this, don't do that, you can't do this, or you shouldn't do this because of the risk of lymphedema. And the risk of lymphedema is a lifelong risk. I'll tell the audience that even if you had a sentinel node biopsy, you still have a very small chance of getting lymphedema. But if you had, the more lymph nodes you've had removed, the higher your chances of getting lymphedema. But now they've come out with more and more research studies. There's the dragon boat women that get, and they're rowing on a dragon boat, and these are all women that are breast cancer survivors. So what have you seen as far as improvements in lymphedema when you're working with people? I mean, there's the physical therapy part to see a lymphedema specialist, but then to continue with your work, what have you seen?
Lisa, that is such a real thing. And there's also, a fear that can be there for that individual.
Absolutely.
And so one of the best things that I've seen working with lymphedema issues is breathing deeper and getting past your fear. Because once you get past your fear, and the breath goes deeper, and the diaphragm muscles moving, and we are aligned in our pelvis and our chest and shoulders and in our ribs, and we're breathing, we can actually get that fuller range of motion we didn't know we could get. But when we stop and clench and hold our breath, that's going to stop right there. Now, the weight bearing is a big issue with lymphedema. We hear that a lot. And the lifting of things. I would always say, listen to your physician. I'm not your physician. What I get to see, though, is the building upon that we do. We start, and it's very different for a person, say, that's been doing Pilates or yoga, and they've been full weight bearing for years. And then they come in and, they think, what am I going to do now? I can't do a plank anymore. So if your physician's telling you not to do that, I say listen to your physician. But we have ways that we build upon. We go to the wall and we bear some weight when we're ready to do that on a wall. We can do body lifting with push-ups on a wall and all sorts of different
adaptations.
And we can get further away from the wall for more work with that weight bearing, or we can get closer to the wall for less weight bearing. We can wear the sleeve that protects, if that's what should be happening with that. And some people choose to wear that glove, and some people do not choose to wear that glove. That is something that is an individual thing. I would never want to be that person telling you not to wear your glove. But we move very safe, and we build. If you're not using weights and you're learning how to contract those muscles, and you're doing that for a while, and you're building those muscles, you may decide you're okay with a 1 pound weight after you're stronger with those push-ups and stronger without the weights. And you're using those TheraBands, and you're strengthening through that way. And then we find that we can build and build and build and build. And the next thing you know, you're doing it. And we're not having any issues. The water is fantastic for lymphedema. The minute you get in the water, with or without lymphedema, the swelling in your body reduces. That's one of the benefits. So in the water, you can move around with less pain. You can get bigger range of motion because you're in the water. Have you ever tried to kick your leg in the water? You can get it way higher than you can on land for most people. So we can work differently that way. And the combination of doing that in the water and then going to land is just so beautiful, the way that we can get that range of motion and that strength built both ways. And it just works together. With lymphedema, these gloves are perfect for that because there's no openness there, and they work well to help with lymphedema if you already have it, and to also, keep you from, hopefully, from getting lymphedema as well. So those are the things that I would say is to continue working and build slowly. Don't go to something really quick and put a 3-pound weight or carry something heavy or bear your full body weight on the floor. So those are things that we do to safely move through it.
Start slow and build up.
Move through it.
Right.
Yes.
So what ages of folks have you had in your class? Maybe youngest to oldest?
We have middle-aged all the way up to as old as 89 years old.
89.
Oh, and I think our eldest was probably 97, actually. So
97.
97, yes.
Well, she believed in exercise.
Yes, and she did a beautiful job with it, too.
Well, we've talked a lot about lymphedema and breast cancer survivors, but that hasn't been your whole life of doing Pilates.
Right.
And you talked about the advantages of Pilates. So what would you say as far as recommendations for other people that have a cancer diagnosis, or maybe not even a cancer diagnosis? It sounds like what you're recommending would be great for anyone. I mean, what sorts of things would you say?
Absolutely. Well, Joseph Pilates, again, started it back in World War I with the prisoners of war, and that's where he started his work with the public. And he was told, you can do anything you want, just don't take them out of the bed. So he had to keep them in a bed. And he actually created equipment that we know of today and still use. I have a reformer at home. We have Cadillacs and we have Wanda chairs. And what he did,
I have no idea what those things are.
What he did was he took the bed springs out of the mattresses, and he used the frames of the bed, and he fashioned and designed equipment that would utilize your own body weight and utilize straps that were spring-loaded, and you could work your own body weight to move your limbs from the strength of your core, even in a bed. So I work with people who have all sorts of things going on from their head to their toes. And that's what's so great about Pilates, because not just breast cancer survivors or cancer survivors have neuropathy in their feet. A lot of people in the general public have neuropathy in their feet, for instance. We do footwork. We do a lot of footwork. And my clients, whether they have breast cancer or whether they don't have any of those things going on, they benefit greatly from footwork, because footwork goes all the way to your head. And if your arches are weak, for one, your bladder is weak and your pelvic floor is weak. To stay continent, the best thing you can do is strengthen your arches. So we start from your feet and we work to your head in Pilates. That has changed people's life in general. Put in there people who have to deal with a lot more other issues, and you're talking about really seeing people free from side effects from medications and neuropathy and so forth. You could use Pilates for anyone. It is adaptable, and the method of work is solid. It's been here a long time, and we can see the the proof of it.
So seated Pilates,
Seated, standing,
in the bed Pilates, standing, laying
lying down on the floor,
leaning in the water.
all sorts of different ways. I've been creative with that in my life to help others with it.
Well, this is just a
Yes.
tremendous program that you have, and I certainly hope that by talking about this, that it will generate some inspiration in our survivors, and perhaps to give Lori a call or
Absolutely.
look at the YWCA website, and if you search fluid recovery, it's easy to find on that.
Absolutely.
And I so appreciate you being here today. I just think that I've learned a lot about Joseph Pilates and what he did, and the passion that you have.
Thank
So
you, Lisa.
I really thank you
so
for being
much.
here.
It's been an honor.
Well, thank you. And then part of what Lori talked about is going to your doctor, getting permission from that. And I think a lot of patients might go to their doctor and say, is it okay to exercise? And the doctor will probably say, yes, absolutely, go exercise. But you really need to advocate for yourself and ask a few more questions, such as, what type of exercise can I do? Is there anything I shouldn't do? Some of the comments I've heard in the past were like contact sports, which is a big impact. Maybe swimming is something that your doctor wants you to wait for if you're on treatment because of risk of infection. Oceans, pool, river, lakes, it just kind of depends. Even now, we recommend that people exercise during treatment. Don't wait and get more and more fatigued and muscle wasting and all of that. So it's important to ask those questions to your doctor. And if you're still on treatment, you may be limited by things like your blood counts, protecting your bones, or skin issues. So those are all things to take under consideration when you talk to your doctor. The other question is, how hard can I push myself? Ask your doctor that question. Or what problems might I have if I exercise? What should I watch out for? And again, Lori had said some things which are very beneficial, like start out slow, then progress. And as we both discussed, even the lymphedema guidelines for exercise have changed. I recently saw a study that talked about lifting weights. Well, I think we think of a lot of bulk with lifting weights, but if you start out slow and build up, that really helps your lymph system and your circulatory system. So some other things to think about are make sure you warm up and you cool down. Make sure you're well hydrated. Listen to your body. Any exercise is better than no exercise. Even folks that are really debilitated and you feel crummy because of chemotherapy or very fatigued with radiation, we used to say things like walk around your house. Start with that. Walk to your mailbox and back. After you can do that several times a day, walk around your block. Walking is actually great exercise and a great way to get started. And it's inexpensive. So specifically, both nutrition and exercise have an impact on your energy level. So Fitbits are also a great tool. They're also a little pricey if you don't have a lot of money to throw around. They can be, $50 or more. Even a simple pedometer that costs $10 can work as a starting place. And believe it or not, the goal for active, healthy adults is 10,000 steps a day. 1 mile is about 2,000 steps. I'm not saying you need to do 10,000 a day, but if you start out slow and continue to increase, that will really help you. The other thing is keep a journal, and I think Lori mentioned that some of the folks she worked with kept a journal. What helped, maybe what you need to change. As far as your exercise routine, do you need to back off? Do you need to improve? Do you need to seek additional assistance? And then in closing, I do want to leave a quote This is in Dr. Julie Silver's book, and she's a rehabilitation physician, and yes, that is a job. And I'm glad to see that because that helps people be the best they can be. That's, I guess, the way I can put it. And she wrote a book called After Cancer Treatment, Heal Faster, Better, Stronger. This was published in 2006. And she mentions a quote by another rehabilitation physician who was a cancer survivor of oral cancer, Dr. Brian Foley. And he really talked about the focus on healing. He said, I would cultivate the garden of me. I would focus not exclusively on the weeds, which he called the tumor, but on nourishing and supporting the garden. I would think, connect, meditate, pray, and would renew myself, reform my being so that I would be nourished and ready to heal. So I want to thank Lori again for coming. I want to encourage all of you to continue the journey on caring for yourself. Our next webcast, we will be discussing that very topic. It will be Tuesday, July 25th at 7 p.m. And again, you can access this via Hope Abounds Facebook page, our website, the Hope Abounds app, or Roku or Apple TV. You can access it that way. And the folks that we're going to focus on next time are going to come in and talk about healthy lifestyle. It's called The Whole Nourish, which I really like the title of that. It will focus on nutrition, exercise, and mindset. Robin Riggs is a certified health coach, and Summer Ryan will be here. She's called a healthy food guru. And their website is www.thewholenourish.com. So if you want to take a sneak peek and see what they're going to talk about, that will be it. And we look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks.